Is Cooper Kupp right that any records broken this year deserve an asterisk because of the extra game?
Okay, so I'm going to go first on this as I'm in Los Angeles and because Cooper Kupp, as a member of my fantasy football team, the Colonizers, was lighting up the league all season and has been for multiple years. Separate discussion. Now, here's what Cooper Kupp said. What those guys did in 16 games, it wouldn't seem right to, I don't know, for those to be broken in 17 games. There's two things about this that I really, really enjoy. Number one, I've told you I've been a big fan of Kupp's for a while. He has sort of come out as a savant of football, like talking more than he's ever talked. And he's turned into this personality that is really likable. He had that one clip where he was saying all those words, using all the verbiage to talk about the play that he got. And now he's speaking very candidly about something that personally affects him. Like, this is actually a very sort of noble stance to take, considering he's the one that's going to be affected. And I agree with him. I don't have to go crazy about it because I'm not over here worrying about who's got record books and what's in them. But I do think that for the rest of my life, I will look at the 2021 season as the delineation point in which many records were broken. Now, lastly, TJ Watt, he's going to probably break the sack record in more games of a season, but he will have done it in less games because of injury. So his stance, to me, I think Kupp is actually very diplomatic in doing this, and it shows a side of him that I think we've learned a lot about this season. Jude.
I love the history nerd, like the aspect of this too. Like, it's one of those things where you're thinking about the greater picture of like the impact of these records, what they mean, what they stand for. I think it's something that we think about in baseball all the time too, where you're contextualizing different eras against each other. I think this is one of those points where I think it's awesome that an athlete is thinking about this in this way, because I love when the athletes love the sport that they're playing in the same way that like us as fans love the sport and are able to talk about it. And so this is one of those things where I think it's just going to delineate the fact that we're entering a new era of football where there are 17 games. And, this has happened in football before where more games have happened. And, I don't think we necessarily look at like Tom Brady's like touchdown record from that season where as like any that like, negates out anything that happened in football the previous 50 years or before that.
Dan Fouts or whoever, yeah.
Right. So it's one of those things where it's just like, we're entering a new era of football. And I think the fact that he's acknowledging this, I think is awesome. The fact that he's thinking about football in this kind of historical context.
Yeah. I would like to give fans more credit than needing an asterisk, because let's say Cooper Kupp gets this record. Well, first of all, the Triple Crown record of leading the league in receiving yards, touchdowns, and receptions, that doesn't matter if it's 16 or more games. It's
right.
Just leading, right? So that one is legitimate. But he's not actually getting a crown that he has to walk around with for the rest of his life, right? So if the fans are looking in their record books and saying, wow, look at all these records that were broken after 2020, well, they're going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, because the season was 17 games. I still recognize these players as being great, but there's nothing there's no little sort of asterisk that needs to be placed there for them to sort of organize their thoughts. Like, okay, we get it. Because pretty soon there's going to be 18 games. And so what are we going to do? Have like a double asterisk section for that, 4 or 5 year span where there was only 17 games? It's okay. It's okay for us to just recognize what's there and what's new and how this works. Because, there's going to be more games. There's going to, we might even get to a 20-game season by the time I die. Who knows? And so, I don't think it's that huge of a deal. Like, do I think that Cooper Kupp should be thought of as one of the greats, one of the best wide receivers of all time? I think he's putting together a resume that can tell you that, yes. And by the end of his career, if he stays healthy, probably going to be one of those guys and should or deserves some level of record, if you will. But yeah, I think everybody's going to say, okay, is he Jerry Rice? They're not going to say, Jerry Rice only played 16 games. Maybe he was better. I think they're just going to assess it however they want to assess it.
Alabaster.
Izzy, I got a question for you. How many games do you think it would take Tua to break the single-season passing record? 25? 30?
If you gave him some receivers like Cooper Kupp, perhaps it will only take him 17 games, But
I like the idea of awarding crowns, though, to like every sports record holder, and then mandating those athletes to walk around wearing those crowns. Like, I want Hank Aaron to be wearing like a home run record crown and walking around like for 50 years after the fact,
right,
with that crown.
That is crazy, though, right there, that Mike Ditka holds the rookie tight end receiving yards record. Mike Ditka, like, I don't even know how many people, south of 30 would tell you that he was a tight end, Mike Ditka. They'd probably assume he was a linebacker or something and just was like, yeah, he's just mean and angry, so he must be on defense all the time.
The Mike Ditka, Dick Butkus sort of overtime gel is very real in terms of history. But I was going to say this, like, how long, speaking of walking around wearing crowns, like, how long are we going to continue to refer to things as the record books? Like, I imagine that there's some guy somewhere deep in Canton. Like
I love
the
this
actual books, you know, and Cooper. It's like Indiana Jones. You know, you've got to cross the thing, pick the book, and do all this stuff. Like, when are we going to stop actually using that word?
The records drive,
the records Wikipedia, like the records,
record PDF page.
You know what I'm saying? Like, exactly. Like, it's gonna be not in our lifetimes, but I can't wait until books are just out of the discussion.
The record iPads.
Yeah. The record tablets. Yes. Like returning to the. Okay. Anyway, I've gone too far.
The record AR glasses. Like that's eventually what it's gonna turn into.
The record NFTs. Okay, we've gone too far.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.